My mother was the most obedient, compliant person I knew. She was the type of woman who apologized when someone stood on her foot. Petite, barely 4'10", she was quiet, gentle, and conflict-avoiding, always putting everybody else's needs above her own. She did the cooking, the cleaning, the grocery shopping, everything. And for most of my childhood, I thought, this is what goodness looks like. Being agreeable, pleasant, non-confrontational, being compliant, not defiant. I thought defiance was something for other people. It was loud, aggressive, bold. Definitely not me, and certainly not her. Until one day, when I was 7 years old, and everything changed. I remember it vividly. We were walking home from the grocery store in West Yorkshire, England, dragging our rickety shopping cart behind us. My mum was wearing her blue-green sari, and she had her hair in a single long, neat plait at the back. We took a shortcut through a narrow alleyway, a snicket, as we call it in West Yorkshire. And that's when we saw them, a group of teenage boys who blocked our path. One of them yelled, "Go back home," and the others laughed. In that moment, my training kicked in. I did what I'd been taught to do: say nothing, keep quiet, keep the peace. I looked down, averted my gaze, and I just wanted to maneuver as fast as possible through the boys. I grabbed my mum's arm, urging her to move with me, but she didn't move. My quiet, deferential, never confrontational mother didn't move. This time, she did something completely different. I was stunned. My mother, who always kept her head down, stopped, turned, and looked at those boys straight in the eye. And then she said calmly but firmly, "What do you mean?" My heart started to race, and I grabbed her arm even tighter and whispered, "Come on, Ma," and tried to pull her away. I was scared, embarrassed. I wanted us to disappear, but she didn't move. She said no to me and shrugged off my arm. Pulling the shopping cart up vertical and with one hand on her hip, she stood taller than I'd ever seen her. Still only 4'10", but somehow towering. Her voice sharpened. "What do you mean?" she said again to the boys. It wasn't a shout. It wasn't aggressive, but it was unmistakably defiant. And in that moment, everything I thought I knew about who defies and who doesn't began to unravel. You see, I was raised to be good. In fact, when I was little, my father told me that my name, Sunita, means good in Sanskrit. And I tried to live up to it. I was obedient at home, agreeable at school, a classic people pleaser at work. Compliance had been my training, and I was an excellent student. I did get 5 degrees after all. Society doesn't just reward compliance, it teaches it. We're praised for going along, for keeping quiet, for not making trouble. So I complied. I followed the script. I did what was expected of me. I became a physician. But even in medicine, with its principle of informed consent, I saw how deep compliance ran. I watched patients comply with treatments and procedures that doctors told them to have, but they didn't necessarily want. I saw nurses hesitate to speak up about errors. I watched junior doctors like me follow orders which we questioned in private, but never challenged out loud. I did it myself, and I became obsessed with one question. Why do we go along with things that go against what we really want or even what we know is right? At first, I studied in medicine, then finance, then the criminal justice system. I'm now an organizational psychologist and professor at Cornell University. I've spent decades studying compliance and defiance, influence and authority, bad advice, and what it really takes to speak up. And the more that I looked, the more that I found this pattern of compliance everywhere. High-stakes situations, like with patients and nurses, but also more mundane ones, like not correcting the wrong coffee order, or not telling your hairdresser to stop when they tell you to trust them with a new cut. I've been there, frozen in my seat, thinking, stop, 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 but not saying anything. I've conducted studies across the UK and the US, two countries that pride themselves on independence, free thinking, and agency. And yet, even in the simplest of experiments, people comply at shockingly high rates. Here's one example. Imagine you're choosing between two different lotteries, A and B. It's obvious that option A is clearly superior. It's more than 2 times the expected value of B, and more than 95% of people will take it when given both options. But someone, a stranger, recommends B. There's no consequences for disagreeing. Now I find up to 85% of people follow the bad advice and take the worst option. Why? Because saying no, however justified, feels uncomfortable, awkward, confrontational, and we've never been taught how to do it. We spend so much time fearing what might happen if we speak up. We forget to ask, what is the cost of staying silent? And that cost, it's real. Regret, harm, stress, burnout, anxiety, depression, dissatisfaction, chronic inflammation. But here's what's so human. Most of us want to speak up when it matters. We want to say no, to push back, to do the right thing, but we don't. And then we carry the weight of what we didn't say, especially when we don't feel brave or powerful or ready, especially when we think of ourselves as the compliant type. We believe defiance is for other people, not us. But what if that belief is wrong? What if defiance isn't a personality trait at all, but a practice? What if defiance isn't something you're born with, but something you build, a skill set? My studies revealed a great disconnect between people's private preferences and their public compliance. In private, when no one was watching, they chose what they truly wanted, but in public, under pressure, they complied. It wasn't that they didn't know what they wanted, they just didn't know how to act on it. And they misinterpreted what saying no means. So after decades of research and observation, I came to a revelation. We have misunderstood what it means to defy. The Oxford English Dictionary defines defiance as challenging the power of another person openly and boldly. I'm not one to usually disagree with the Oxford English Dictionary. I grew up in the UK after all. But I think this definition is too narrow and it doesn't honor our agency. Defiance isn't just dominance or disruption. It's not rebellion for rebellion's sake. It's not boldness or aggression, nor does it require superhuman courage. My definition of defiance is simply acting in accordance with your true values, especially when there is pressure to do otherwise. It's not always aggressive. It's not always bold. But it is deliberate, and it is powerful. And when we redefine defiance in this way, we move it from something negative, rare, and risky to something positive, accessible, meaningful, and even pro-social. Something that changes not just our character, but also our communities. So the question becomes, how do we know when to defy? And just as importantly, how do we build the capacity to do it? That's what led me to develop what I call the Defiance Compass. It's a tool to help us find our way in those difficult situations. In my research and book, Defy, I bring together 3 questions into a simple, actionable guide. Because when we make these questions explicit, we can start to defy with clarity, not confusion. The first question is, who am I? This grounds us in our values. It helps us remember what matters most. Next, we can ask, what type of situation is this? This helps us figure out if it's safe to speak up. Will it be effective? Will it have positive impact? Finally, we can face the question, what does a person like me do in a situation such as this? This is the bridge between identity and action. It helps us connect who we are with what we do. And here's the key. That third question circles right back to the first. Who am I? Because how we act again and again becomes who we are. That's why the Defiance Compass isn't just a decision-making tool. It's a practice, a loop, a way to become more of ourselves, one choice at a time. I realized that's exactly what my mum did in the alley that way. Looking back, I believe she asked herself those 3 questions, maybe not consciously, but deeply. Who am I? She was a mother, an immigrant, a woman who had endured years of slights. And on that day, her identity aligned with her values: dignity, respect, equality. What type of situation is this? She saw that those boys were just boys, loud, posturing, maybe even scared themselves. It wasn't safe exactly, but it was possible. What does a person like me do in a situation like this? She chose to act, not because she was fearless, but because she was ready. And maybe because I was watching, she wanted to show me what defiance looked like. So she stopped, turned, and looked at those boys in the eye, and she said, "What do you mean?" And she said it again, "What do you mean?" The boys didn't answer, so she continued, "Oh, yes, you think you're so clever. Big, strong, tough boys, right?" Still silence, until finally one of the boys muttered, "Let's go." And just like that, they dispersed. My mother, 4'10" in a sari, hair in a single plait, grabbed the shopping cart and moved forward briskly, head high, sari flowing behind her. No fanfare, no victory speech, just a woman who'd chosen to act in alignment with who she was. That single moment changed everything for me. It cracked open the idea that defiance belonged only to a certain kind of person. Sometimes the people you think are the least likely to defy surprise us most because they've been quietly practicing. Even Rosa Parks, before she gave her famous no on that bus in Montgomery, Alabama, had complied with segregation laws many times. Each defiant moment is often preceded by hundreds of moments of compliance. So I realized you don't need to be a certain type of person to defy. You just have to be connected to what matters. And our values define what matters most to us, who we are and who we want to be. And when we abandon them, we abandon ourselves. We think we are staying safe, but we're actually drifting from who we are. The most painful moments in life aren't when others betray us. They're when we betray ourselves. If we think defiance is only for the brave, we excuse ourselves from doing the work. Understanding that it is a skill and something we can train for, just like we train for anything else, is crucial. So what can you do today if you find yourself caught in that moment? Pause. Don't slide into your automatic compliance or default silence. Connect. Connect with your values, who you are and who you want to be. Ask yourself, what does a person like me do in a situation like this? Because this matters, to know that we have a choice in how we act. When we make decisions from a place of values, not just once but repeatedly, we become someone we recognize, someone others can depend on, someone who lives with integrity. Defiance isn't a personality trait. It's a muscle, a compass, a practice. And every single one of us has the power to practice it. That one moment of defiance didn't just change my mother, it changed me. Because I didn't inherit a personality, I acquired a practice. This is what I call the defiance domino effect, a single act that reverberates, often quietly, through others. It shapes those who witness it, and it ripples forward in ways that we may never see. Years after that day in the alley, I learned something striking about Rosa Parks. Before she ever made history with her famous no on the bus, she once witnessed, as her child, her own mother defy. As the story goes, the bus driver told her mother she'd have to move for a white passenger or be thrown off. Her mother calmly said, "I don't think you will do that." It wasn't loud or dramatic, but it must have stayed with Rosa, just like that moment in the alley stayed with me. It planted something. And my hope is this: if we can practice defiance, if we can role model it, train for it, parent for it, then one day in that same alleyway, one of the teenage boys will speak up. He'll turn to his friends and say, "That's not okay, let them pass," so that my immigrant mother or somebody else's won't have to carry it alone. Because every single act of consent, of compliance and dissent changes not just our story, but the stories of our society. It affects our lives, our workplaces, our communities. It creates the world we live in. We change ourselves. We change the people around us. We change the culture. And maybe, just maybe, we can change the world. Thank you.